So, if I say to you, Luke, what is the crucial difference between what is and what could be for a creator, more specifically for somebody who's trying to make music, what would your answer be at this point?
The crucial difference between what is and what could be.
Yeah. What's the reason that this is possibly one of the most important understandings anyone trying to create anything? Yeah, why is that one of the most important understandings that any creator that needs to get, or not needs to, because you can create lots of stuff without this understanding, but in what way does it help almost more than any other understanding?
Well, I think knowing that you don't necessarily know what could be is, I think, a way of. Well, wait. In what context? You're saying the difference between what is and what could be, like as someone that's making music.
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, in any context, but I mean, I'm asking you on purpose a question which is very open-ended.
Well, I mean, the simplest thing is that
because it's already describing the answer to the question is in the way I'm asking the question, apart from anything else.
well, it's like what is already in existence, and what could be hasn't happened yet.
Right. So when you said in what context, you were asking for some what is, right?
Right. Like the context of.
Yeah. What does what does this mean? What is this? What is this question? Yeah. And the me asking you a question just straight in, no nothing. I just like came in with just the question. So what is the crucial difference between what is and what could be? That is a door, right? And you can come at it two ways. You can just say, well, if that did mean something, what could it mean? Or and also,
Right.
what could it possibly mean? And the other side of it is, what could it not mean? Yeah, what could it definitely not mean? Yeah, so there's a few things that it could definitely not mean. It could definitely not mean a chicken. Yeah, it could definitely not mean my children are arguing next door. Yeah, so there's like an infinite number of things it could not mean. Yeah, and those things that it could not mean are one of the ways of describing what it could mean. Yeah. And I think that's the point about what could be that is really important here. Is that what we get confused about is that we tend to only describe things or think about things in terms of what is, what we have seen, or in this case, when you said in what context about the question, you wanted to know what is. In other words, what exists. What are you what are you asking me? Yeah, rather than thinking about all of the things, not all of the things, but what could that mean? What could it be? Because it couldn't be a lot of things that make it clearer. So we come at a lot of things just based upon our experience. So Arash, one of our friends and colleagues, Make Music Life coaches, he will often say, and he won't mind us saying this, he will often say, I can't see it. Yeah, I can't see this possibility. there was I had a conversation with one of the Make Music Life Mastery members on, when was it, last week sometime, where I asked him if a particular result was possible. So I kind of gave him the reason, the idea of building your own audience with the music that you make, and then that meaning that you have this independence from middlemen, middle people, middle persons, and this independence from labels, from all that kind of stuff. And I said, can you see that that's possible? And he said, well, in theory. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, I need faith that it will happen. I said, why do you need faith that it will happen? He said, well, because I haven't seen it yet. And I said, but is there anything about what I've described which makes it impossible? He said, no. I said, so why do you need to take it on faith? Taking something on faith is saying that it's impossible, but you just got to believe it. Yeah. So, for instance, I mean, I don't want to get religion into this, but let's just take a miracle from the Bible or something. I'm not going to get specific about that because that's not the point. But nothing that I kind of described to him is defying any kind of physical law that we're talking about here. You don't have to take it on faith, because this is mistaking what could be from what is. Yeah, because our kind of culture and our training and our education has created a situation where if we haven't seen it, then it is the same as walking on water. But that's not true. There are certain things which aren't happening, but which are possible. I could take all of my clothes off right now and talk to you. Right? You don't have to take that on faith. I'm not going to do it for obvious reasons. Right? But it isn't. And I'm not going to do that. Don't worry. But it's not the same as me. I could now flap my arms and sail into the sky. But the way that we look at the world is often that something that isn't, or is the same as something that couldn't be.
I see. So you're saying that people look at something that hasn't happened yet in the same way they would look at me being able to like conjure a flame in my hand right now.
Exactly.
And like shoot it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what you're trying to get at is what could be is not what hasn't happened yet, but could be is not the same as something that is.
Remove the yet. Or even remove the yet. So, or what hasn't happened, full stop. Yeah. And probably will, or not even probably, it's the wrong word. And maybe will never happen. Right? Mm-hmm. So again, the yet is, I think, putting too much on it. Yeah. But continue. So what hasn't happened. Yeah.
You're saying what hasn't, a lot of people look at what hasn't happened in the same way that they might look at me like starting to fly right now without any sort of trickery, but literally just developing the power of flight.
Yeah. In that they say, well, I can't see it. Yeah. Because it isn't. But that's not the same as saying it couldn't. I mean, I gave this example a couple of days ago. I said, this computer that we're talking on right now, I could play games on it. It has that capability. Yeah, I'm not going to play games on it because that's not something I do on this computer. Yeah. In fact, that's not something I do very much of at all. I used to, but I don't anymore. But that is a description of what it is what it could do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you're saying that.
Yeah, go on.
What artists may not realize, or creatives, is that what they could do is not they're looking at it. They're not looking at it in the way that you're looking at your computer.
No, I mean, they think they are. They go, well, that's obvious. Yeah, of course, right? But then they start to say things like, yeah, but I'll have to take what you're saying here on faith. Because it hasn't happened yet. But that's a circular argument. If the only thing that will happen is what has happened, or could happen is what has happened, then we're stuck, literally. Right? And so what people do is they could, because they're not willing to look at what could be and view it as being as possible as something. Well, no, it's a different thing. Like, as not viewing it as being possible because it hasn't happened. What they end up then moving to is, what should I do? Right? Which is essentially there is something out there that is already, and I need to do that.
There's already a process.
There's already something that is existing, and that it's okay because that means it's real. I don't have to take anything on faith because it is. But one of the things that makes something what is what it could do, but hasn't.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. What did you say before that? You said you were talking about the looking for the should.
Yes.
They're looking for something outside that already is that they can do.
Yeah. So I've always had a problem with it. Well, not always. Since I started coaching very early on, I really. It was like this. I mean, you know what I mean when I say there's a coaching bell that rings. And when you're coaching somebody, someone will say something and you'll feel this internal ding-ling-ling, like alarm bell thing. And one of the first sort of regular sort of statements that people made that for some reason, I didn't know what, I couldn't pinpoint why it was that there was such a problem. I've had many articulations of why, was when they said, what should I do? Now, this was fairly early on, but bear in mind, one of the first ebooks I ever wrote was called something like 12 things every music producer should do. So even I used to say that, right? So this has come from multiple conversations. So you consistently progress and upgrade your understanding. But it should became, I remember it was, I removed that PDF from my website pretty quickly because I was like, I shouldn't have used the word should. I wish I hadn't have used the word should. Right. And I've had many reasons for saying it, like you're looking to an external authority. Yeah. And I've had many ways of saying, just replace the word should with could, or replace the word should with want to. And you'll find it's actually a much more, I've used all kinds of phrases over the years, empowering and things like that. Now I've actually lighted on a much clearer articulation of what the problem actually is, which is this distinction between what is and what could be. In that, what people are looking for, including me, when I say should, is that there is something already existing which is correct, which is perfect, which is right. Yeah? What do I do? Tell me what that is. What should I do? I mean, you've spoken, you've coached a lot of people as well. Would you say that, I mean, does that kind of correlate with your experience, what I just said?
Oh, yeah, with people asking for a what should I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, it does seem like the people that get the most out of it, out of coaching, go into it with less of an idea that there is a specific set of steps that they need to follow to get a result.
Yeah, I mean,
the ones that...
Yeah, go on, sorry.
There are people that I would encounter that they would be like, okay, you person of authority, prove to me through your background that you have the exact steps that I should take, that you will tell me to take to produce my desired outcome of whatever it may be. And they're just like, they're almost like vetting you to see if you have this
magic button.
The magic button that you can give to them. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was reading something and it was talking about, I mean, I think it's such a universal thing that people are looking for, and it's a problem that people have been talking about, because it's in Shakespeare, it's in Macbeth. There's a line where one of the characters basically asks this physician, like, you know, what can you give me that will get rid of this particular problem? And the physician's like, it's not a, you're looking for this magic pill that doesn't exist. And I mean, I think, I feel like I watch ads and you see that they're playing on this desire that people have of there being just like oh, this is the exact thing that will take you from here to here. You just need to do A, B, C, D, and it will be simple and effortless, and you will get all of your needs met. Your unwanted things met will just be like, you know, and it's just like, and you don't even have to try. It's simple. It's already proven. It's what you should do. There's no question. I have that should, and I'm going to tell you exactly.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, I think if there's one thing that we do in Make Music Your Life, it's actually about helping people learn, well, helping people practice how to think. I mean, if there is a magic pill, it's that knowing that there isn't a magic pill, first of all, and then how to move forward without a magic pill. That's the magic pill. And how to move forward is by so there are, it's not that there's no progress that's been made. You know, we're starting from before the wheel. Right, so that there's no information that you can learn that means that is better than any other. There are no steps that you can take that's better than any other steps. But the trouble is with the word should, it's assuming, and you might not think this when you're actually asking it, right? It's not conscious that you're thinking this, but this is what's behind that question. What should I do? Is that I don't know and you do. Yeah, and also I'm not willing to figure it out. I just want you to tell me. Yeah, because if I make a mistake, right, then I will fail.
Yeah, speaking of failure, there's a definition of failure that that goes the non-performance of what is expected, right?
Right.
So failure for a lot of people is almost like it's like defeat, right? So, but really, you
go on.
Yeah, I was gonna. Sorry. So what failure is you expect something to happen, you do something, and then it doesn't turn out as you expected.
Right. So now I'm like jumping up and down, wanting to say that is a great articulation of the difference between what is and what could be. Right? You're treating what could happen, right? So an expectation as an is. Right? If I do this, right. So if I do this, So if I do this, then this is what will happen. I want you to tell me what I should do, because then that will give me the certainty that if I do this, then this will happen. So it's a what is. But nothing, literally nothing that we do at any point, we can be sure what is going to happen next. Like if I push this D key down on this piano, I can expect the D to be played, but maybe the thing's not plugged in. Maybe it's broken. Maybe that's keys thing. Maybe I kind of trip and I accidentally hit an E key. Right? So I have an expectation that something is about to happen. You know, I have a mental model of what will happen based upon what has happened in the past. Right? Now, that expectation, it's a mistake to treat it as a what is. Yeah, I mean, it's fairly reliable that certain things will happen when other things happen. So if I say certain things to Sally, my wife, it's fairly reliable that she's going to say certain things back. But I can't be sure of that. It's not an is, it's a could be. And when what you were talking about, the mistake there is turning an expectation into a fact. Right? So when people say, I've got this piece of music, let's bring it back to making music. I've got this piece of music, and I think that if I try this, then this could happen. Right? Because somebody told me that if I take these steps, then this is what will happen for them, which is essentially what they're saying. Right? But then they do this thing, and the point here is they won't have done the exact thing. The situation won't be exactly the same. They won't have the same equipment. They won't have understood it in exactly the way that the person said it. The person who said it has explained it in possibly incorrectly or unclearly. I mean, it's not possible to be 100% clear. So the person tries this thing and then it doesn't work. And so, now they're, oh no, I'm a terrible person because I've failed. But the reason that they're processing as having failed is because they believe that an expectation is a fact. And it never is. It's just what could be. And taking, understanding the distinction between, I mean, even things which are physical, and that's kind of going into my, see, I didn't expect that to happen. Right? But I haven't, can you see that? You probably can't see it because you're looking through Skype. What's happening is I'm holding up this trackpad, and the blue screen thing, whatever it's called, when you're transparent, is meaning that now it looks like you can see my background through it, right? So now it looks like oh no, that's not working. Yeah, now it looks like I've got a hole in my chest. Yeah. Now I didn't expect that to happen, right? But if I'd have thought it through, that was something that could be. But I'm not processing that as failure because it didn't do what I expected. This is, I mean, even if I hadn't have known this could happen, yeah, this was always a feature of this particular situation, that if I hold this up, it would look like I've got a hole in my chest. It's right, but I haven't failed. I'm going to stop the video. We need to record the whole thing again, have the whole conversation, because I've ruined everything because what I expect, because something that happened that I didn't expect to happen. That would be a mistake. And obviously it's a ridiculous example.
Right.
Most people wouldn't make that particular mistake, but they are making that mistake when they believe they've failed, when what happens isn't what they expect, because nothing ever is exactly what we expect. It might feel like it is, but when you look closely enough, there's always something happening that you don't expect.
Right. And it's also, it's when you don't expect it, not what people do is they apply a negative emotion or a negative sense to themselves because of something that they couldn't have known would happens, that they contrast with their expectation. Exactly. Right, in their head. But then that creates a spiral, right? Because then, like, if you think, like, what is the fear of failure? It's like anxiety. It's predicting something bad will happen in the future because in the past you defined it as being something bad you're getting of what was not expected, right? So then, and this is another thing that there's been studies on this, the more you presume that a bad event will happen, that you presume will be a failure, the less your brain is able to produce out of the box potential what could be solutions to problems. Yeah. So in making this, in missing the mark of realizing that failure is not something to be judged negatively, you are reducing your capacity to come up with novel solutions to problems because you are limiting your brain's ability to think, because you fear a negative outcome that you have associated with not getting what you expected.
Exactly.
Did that make
yeah, exactly. Look, all of us are prediction machines. That's what our brains are. Our brains predict what will happen, or are predicting what will happen as a result of any given action based upon what has happened in the past. But what we have to recognize is it's only ever a prediction and only ever can be. It's what we're constantly doing. And when something else happens as a result of something different happening, which if you look closely enough is always the case, something not exactly the thing that we are predicting happens at any point and never has. Right? So our brains are constantly updating our maps of what our prediction maps of what will happen based upon what does happen, right? But that doesn't make what could happen what will happen, right? It's like it's mistaking the difference between what is and what could be. And more than that, what we've got to recognize is what could be. Yeah, like what? And this is the bit where people start scratching their head, but it's absolutely crucial insight. One, like an infinite, like a description of something has to include, like this trackpad, right? Has to include, and you don't. I mean, you could never describe anything accurately. I mean, this just shows you can't describe anything accurately. But an accurate description of anything has to include all of the things that it could do, or that could happen, but haven't. It has to. Right? And that just shows us how inaccurate our predictions are and always will be. But that doesn't mean that we don't make progress.
Right? Because, I mean, I can make one going back to making music. The first ever Bells and Robes, which is my act EP that we put out, I thought, okay, we have this, we have some people that are going to help us with this like publicity, whatever. I thought, we'd release it and we'd send it to these people. They would like it. They would post it. We'd get millions of plays. Our career would be a massive success. We'd have this show. There'd be hundreds of people there. And none of that happened exactly like that or even close, right? And so at the time, it was weird because it's so weird how this is all connecting, because that definition of failure, that was our bio on our Facebook. Our bio was just the definition of failure. That definition, the non-performance of what is expected, and so, but it was like we made that, and so there's like disappointment, but then you look and you're like, okay, well, what did I just gain from doing this? Just from acting with, I have my awful hypothesis of what will happen, but held a show, promoted the show, got 100 people there that had never heard of us before, learned how to distribute a album, learned how to market an album poorly, but learned some things that did work, right? And then learned some things about how to communicate with fans about the music poorly, but in some ways, some people responded to it. And then by going forward and not quitting after that, all the things that just happened, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say the skills went from like a 2 to a 3. The next time we released the thing, those capabilities were strengthened, right? And we didn't quit because it was we didn't get what we expected, kept going, right? And then the next time, all those skills have gotten further developed, and it's not even just purely musical skills. It's skills that go across other domains, right? Because some of the things that I learned in that allowed me to get other jobs, other gigs, other things.
So because all of the things that those skills, if we can describe those skills, not in terms of just what is. So in other words, in this case, how we would usually describe those skills is, well, when you learn this skill, you're going to be able to promote an album better. Yeah, you're going to learn something about. So that's the what is. But what about all of the things that those skills could also help you with, which you hadn't recognized before having them? So that's what right there, you've uncovered some of the could be's, and then they turned into ises.
Right, exactly.
So you cannot know. So all of the counterfactuals are things that this thing could do, right, but which haven't. Yeah. And because there's an infinite number of those things, that means that you can never have an accurate, like a 100% accurate representation of all of the things that could happen, or this could do, or the ways it could help you, or in fact the ways it could go wrong. Yeah. And the mistake really is to think that what you see and what happens is all there is
right
about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about whether it be a skill,
like
whether it be a skill or a situation or anything else. Yeah, and you know, this is, you know, this understanding, and it can be a little bit, turn your mind into knots by thinking about this kind of thing. But when you get it, the fundamental distinction between what is and what could be, and how a description of anything you have to take on board all of the things that could be, but, well, not all of the things, because you can't, it's impossible, but you accept that a characteristic of something is all of the thing, is the thing, or the characteristics of the things that something is are about what it could do but hasn't. That unlocks a different way of interacting with the universe, with making music, with moving forward in your life, with building your music career, with solving problems. Because you then realize that while we will always follow the rules of the universe, the physics. Yeah, I can't, you know, one of the counterfactuals which is not true is that I can flatten my arms and I will fly. Yeah, but one of the counterfactuals which is true is that I could take all my clothes off now, yeah, and continue this conversation. Yeah, that I won't doesn't make it something that is based upon faith. Right? Understanding that distinction unlocks unlimited progress, not towards anything, right? Because we have to go within the laws of the universe. I'm not talking about magic here. I mean, it can seem like magic because of all of the things that could be that we haven't thought of yet.
Right.
Right? But it's not magic. It's very, very physical. You know, I mean, when I say physical, I don't mean it has to actually exist all the time. But it is based upon physical laws of the universe. Right? And I think sometimes this is the mistake that people make with some of what I talk about, is that they think it's woo, but it's not. Right? Because I'm talking about what could be. And because of our education system and the way that a lot of science has been done, it's very inductivist. You know, it's not real unless it's happened, yeah, unless it's seen, yeah, unless it's observed, yeah. Right, because of that, and it's kind of endemic in our culture. People mistake something that could be but isn't with something that could never be. Right? So they think that, you know, flapping their arms and flying is the same as taking your clothes off and running naked, you know, on a YouTube video. It's not. One could happen but hasn't, and the other could never happen.